Hello, this is Mike, NoStressMike.com. I want to talk a little bit about denial. Last night I was talking to some friends and they were explaining how their community, their local community, is under attack by more rules and regulations, both by the local in the way of a market, farmers market was coming under attack, and then they were wanting to do, they were trying to say they fall under certain regulations and stuff like that, and then the other one was the federal government has decided to cover, I don't know how many acres, millions of acres, and this is in Missouri, in the Springfield, Missouri area, and they want to cover it under certain regulations, and one of them was the water will belong to the government. I tried to explain to people that we're being under attack by all different directions. You can't defend yourself from all of these different ways of being attacked, because it's going to be one after the other. And people tend to want to say, well, you know, it's for our good, our best good. Well, some of it may be, but most of it is not. And you can't defend yourself by trying to pick which ones are good and which ones are bad. You just can't do that. That's why they're trying to overwhelm everybody with this. And so then they just say, well, it's not that bad. And it is that bad. All I say, they already have all the laws and regulations in place to do whatever it is that they want to do. And we as normal people, we can't even understand a little bit of what it is they're trying to do, because they're so twisted, and it's just not going to work. What you do have to do, and this is what people have the hardest time understanding, and I don't know if they're just emotionally and spiritually weak or what it is, but what you have to do is remember the United States has a constitution, and this constitution is what makes our government operate, and they are way out of the boundaries of the constitution, and they make these regulations, they make these laws, and these are unconstitutional laws. They just assign somebody to do stuff, and then these people come up with these weird policies and regulations. You can't battle each one of them like they are. So what you have to do is you have to stand up for your constitutional right. And the Constitution says this, and that's the way it is. So anything that they come up with that's unconstitutional, you just have to recognize it as not being a valid law, because it's an unconstitutional law. They hate it. When you say that, they hate it. But that's the only thing that you can attack them with that they cannot argue about. Even though they will try to come up with all kinds of weird talk and twisted stuff that they think that they can get by with. They do not have the authority over us. When they do these regulations and they do these weird laws and you go along with it, then you are allowing them to have that authority over you. You recognize these unconstitutional laws as being valid. So you can't. And you have to just stand up and say they are unconstitutional laws. And that's it. Just let it go at that. And they're going to fight back at that. They're going to try to use their court system, in which their court system has got to be pretty twisted now too. I mean, they're trying to make us go for things that we know is wrong. You can't just go and pick through these things and try to fight them one at a time. You don't. You just have to just face them and say it's unconstitutional law, so it's not a valid law. And that's it. Now when you do this, prepare. Because they only have one thing that they can come back at you with after all this stuff. And that's going to be the intimidation. They're going to try to intimidate you. And they're going to try to intimidate you with money, with fines and all this kind of stuff. But these fines, the same thing. When you don't pay these fines, they're right back to intimidation again. If you don't do it, then you go to jail. Same thing. They're using intimidation. The whole process is an intimidation process. And it just escalates more and more and more until it gets to the point, well, if you don't pay the fine, you don't go to jail, we're going to arrest you, we're going to take you away, there's nothing you can do about it because we're going to use force to make our laws, even though they're unconstitutional, our regulations, even though they're unconstitutional, don't have anything to do with us as freedom-loving Americans. We will go by that. We will buy into that because we think we can't stop the force. Now we're right back into what I've been teaching all this time. Non-compliance and three-man militia. The three-man militia, in gardening, leather crafts, chemicals, radiation, communications, first aid, health. There's so many things that can be done. And these are the things that are going to give you strength. When you are part of a three-man militia, you learn stuff, and then once you get proficient with it, you go to your local sheriff and you tell the local sheriff that you are part of a militia and we're into chemicals or we're into first aid, whatever it is that you're into. We can help you when you need help. You're telling the sheriff two things. One thing is, when he's approached and he's under pressure, he knows he can get a hold of you because you represent a militia. He doesn't need to know it's a three-man militia, but he knows he's going to have people that he can get as a posse really quick and will stand behind him. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, if your sheriff turns chicken shit, or he's thinking about turning chicken shit, he's going to be thinking, well, I've got a militia that's in my community that may not be happy if I turn chicken shit. And the word militia already tells them we're into guns. And once you're into guns, people understand what force is, even though that's not what your militia is all about. It's about first aid, it's about cooking, it's, I don't know, whatever it is. It shows that you have organization. And with the word militia means everyone in the militia at least knows how to handle a firearm safely. So, but you got to remember, you're dealing with people that are in denial. They deny that things are as bad as what they are. And that's why they keep pushing more and more and more stuff. Stuff that we don't want, we can't even understand how this stuff is even talked about. But like I say, a lot of these people just going right along with it. You need to stand. And to do that, you need to be organized, even with a three-man militia. That's all it takes. And then, like I say, don't go along with this stuff. Stand up for your rights. because we're losing them left and right, and that's because you're giving them away. I haven't lost any of my rights. I haven't given any of mine away, but most people do. But like I say, I take care of my own security, my own health, my own everything. That's why self-reliant. They hate self-reliant people, but you have to be self-reliant. I don't know how else to say it. But organize and know you have rights, and be prepared to stand up for your rights. And if they know you're willing to stand and you won't buckle under, then they'll back off. But it's going to be a tough thing. But you better have a plan, because when you stand up, you better be ready. It's going to come to you. Thank you. This is Mike, NoStressMike.com.